She laughs in court, thinks she's untouchable. Then the judge drops the sentence.
This court to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence her to 15 years in the Florida State Prison.
I didn't do anything wrong. I was just there. That's what Alicia Andrews told detectives. A 23-year-old woman with a soft voice and a stone face, sitting in an interview room, convinced she could walk out the same way she walked in. Free. Unbothered. Untouchable. She was wrong. By the time the gavel fell on May 22, 2026, that smirk had vanished. The courtroom went silent. And Alicia Andrews, the woman who thought she could help hunt down a rapper and get away with it, heard a number that turned her blood cold: 15 years. But let me take you back, because this story isn't just about a sentence. It's about a mother's son, a gang feud that spilled onto a Tampa hotel parking lot, and a young woman who picked the wrong side. Before we dive in, I need to ask you something. This channel, Crime X, is still small. Our last video crawled past 100 views, but barely anyone hit subscribe. That hurts, because I put everything into these stories. If you want to see more deep dives like this one, do me one favor right now. Smash that subscribe button. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube that true crime belongs here. Do it. I'll wait. Good. Now let's get into the case that should have made national headlines. June 23, 2024. Tampa, Florida. Rapper Julio Foolio, real name Charles Jones, was celebrating his 26th birthday. He'd been posting his location on Instagram all night, club after club, hotel after hotel. A fatal mistake, because watching his every move was a group of young men from a rival Jacksonville gang, the ATK and 1200 Sets. And riding with them, sitting in the passenger seat of a getaway car, was Alicia Andrews. She wasn't a gang member. She wasn't holding a gun. But the prosecution would later argue she was something just as dangerous. The lookout. The one who helped track Foolio's movements. The one who booked the Airbnb through Instagram. The one who, when her boyfriend leaned over and asked if they should get him, didn't say no. At 4:40 in the morning, Foolio stepped outside his Holiday Inn. A dark sedan pulled up. Gunfire ripped through the air. Foolio was hit multiple times and died on the pavement. 3 others were wounded. And Alicia Andrews? She fled back to Jacksonville. Deleted texts from her phone. Thought she'd covered her tracks. But detectives are smarter than that. They pulled her iCloud. They found photos of her at the scene. Messages talking about the murder plan. And when they sat her down for an interview, she did something that would seal her fate. She lied. Then she lied again. Then she laughed. I didn't kill nobody, she said, smiling. I didn't even know they had guns. The detective leaned in. Then why did you delete everything? Silence. That's when the smirk started to fade. Here's where I remind you, if you're enjoying this deep dive, please hit that subscribe button right now. Crime X is still small, and your subscription tells YouTube we deserve to be seen. Tap subscribe, turn on the bell, and help me keep telling these stories. Do it now. I'll be right here. October 2025. Tampa. Alicia Andrews walks into a courtroom with something most defendants don't have. A boyfriend who pulled the trigger and a story that might just work. She testifies in her own defense. She tells the jury she never saw a gun that night. She says she thought the group was going to get food. She heard shots, but she didn't know anyone died. Then the prosecutor brings up a text message from 2021. Andrews was 17. She wrote that Julio Foolio needed to die. Yeah, but I didn't mean it, she testified. I was just gossiping. Gossiping. A young mother is dead, and she's calling it gossip. But Andrews had more than excuses. She had fear. Real fear. She told the court her boyfriend, Isaiah Chance, once beat her for 20 minutes straight. Jurors saw photos of her injuries. She said Chance controlled what she wore, where she went, who she talked to. She claimed she was terrified of him. That she stayed in the car because she didn't have a choice. People in jail look at me sideways, she testified. One of my co-defendants was trying to have me jumped. So I just do what I have to do. It was a powerful defense. A young woman trapped in an abusive relationship. A passenger, not a participant. The defense argued there were no texts, no calls, no direct messages tying her to any murder plot in the weeks before the shooting. She wasn't there when the weapons were packed. She didn't let the group into the Airbnb. Someone else did that first. But the prosecution had evidence that cut through every excuse. Detective Benjamin Borse took the stand. He pulled data from Andrews' phone and iCloud account. Deleted texts. Instagram messages. Cash App transfers. Photos with metadata showing exactly where and when they were taken. Cell phone location data placed her at the hotel when the shots rang out. The jury saw her movements mapped out in real time. And then there was the eyewitness, a civilian staying at the Tampa Holiday in that morning. They testified they were jolted awake by the sound of gunfire. So loud, so sudden, they initially thought it was a bomb. That witness didn't identify Andrews by name. But their testimony did something just as powerful. It put the jury inside the chaos of that night. They heard the fear in the witness's voice. They understood, in that moment, exactly what Alicia Andrews helped make possible. November 1st, 2025. The jury walks back in. Deliberations took just over 2 hours. The courtroom is frozen. Andrews sits at the defense table, still wearing that same expression. Still convinced she's walking out. The foreperson stands. Guilty of manslaughter. Not guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. Not first-degree murder. Not life in prison. But guilty. The smirk finally disappears. Manslaughter in Florida carries a maximum sentence of 15 years. And Andrews would soon learn that the woman who spent 18 months telling everyone she was innocent was about to face a judge who didn't believe a word of it. But here's where this case takes an even stranger turn. After the verdict, Andrews did something almost unheard of. She appealed and won. She successfully argued that the original trial judge, Michelle Cisco, had shown overt hostility toward the defense throughout the proceedings. Cisco was removed from the case in January 2026. A rare move, almost unheard of after a conviction. So when Andrews walked into that sentencing hearing on May 22, 2026, she wasn't facing the same judge who had watched her lie on the stand. She faced Judge Kimberly Fernandez. A fresh set of eyes. A new chance. But here's what Andrews didn't expect. Judge Fernandez had already reviewed every motion, every objection, every claim of bias against the original judge. And before a single word of testimony was heard, she denied every single defense motion for a new trial. Then she looked at the record and said something that crushed any hope Andrews had left. I would not have ruled any differently. This is the part where I need you to pause and hit subscribe. CrimeX is fighting for every single subscriber. Our last video got views but no love. Please tap that subscribe button right now. It tells YouTube we matter. Do it. I'll wait. The prosecution asked for the maximum. 15 years. They reminded the court that manslaughter in Florida carries that exact penalty. And then they let the victim's family speak. Sandrikas Mays, Julio Foolio's mother, walked to the microphone. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She spoke with a quiet, devastating precision. My son was hunted. He was followed from club to club, tracked down like an animal. They could have turned around at any point. They could have stopped. But they still carried on the plan to hunt my son down like a deer in the woods. She turned toward Andrews. Alicia's family can see her. They can talk to her. She can see her child. But I can't see my child. That line hung in the air.
To the Honorable Judge, my name is Sandrikas Mays, and I'm the mother of Charles Jones, known to many as Julio Foolio. I stand before this court carrying a pain that no mother should ever have to endure. My son was more than a rapper or a public figure. He was my child. He was deeply loved by his family, his friends, and the people whose lives he touched. Since the day he was taken from us, my life has never been the same. The actions connected to this case did not just take one life. They destroyed an entire family emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. My son was hunted, followed, and ultimately murdered in what authorities describe as a coordinated plot involving multiple individuals. It is extremely painful to hear Alicia Andrews portray herself as someone who didn't know what was going on. While evidence and testimony showed she traveled with the others, tracked my son's movements, and remained involved throughout the events leading to his death. Whether she pulled the trigger or not, my son would still be alive today had people not participated in carrying out this plan. A mother lives with instinct and intuition, and mine tells me that this was not ignorance. This was participation. It was calculated. They planned it. On my way driving here, every second, every minute, every hour, they could have changed their mind. They could have turned around. But yet and still, they carried on the plan to hunt my son down like a deer in the woods, like they were hunting. This was loyalty to violence over humanity. My son was treated like his life did not matter. He was ambushed and robbed of the chance to grow older, become a father one day, continue his career, and simply live. Every birthday, holiday, and family gathering is now filled with grief. I replay the memories of my son constantly. I think about his laugh, his voice, and the moments we will never get back. The trauma from this loss follows me every single day. No sentence will ever bring Charles right to me, but accountability matters. Alicia family can see her. They can talk to her. She can see her child, but I can't see my child. I have to go to visit him in a wall at the cemetery. I ask this court to remember that behind every headline is a real family suffering permanent damage. My son's life mattered. He was not disposable. The emotional devastation caused by this murder reaches far beyond the courtroom and will affect my life forever. I respectfully ask the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of the role Alicia Andrews played in the events that led to my son's death, because she knowingly knew what was going on. Choices were made, and those choices had deadly consequences. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my son, Charles Jones.
Andrews sat motionless, wearing a red jail uniform, shackled at the wrists and ankles. She didn't look at the mother. She didn't look at anyone. Then her attorney, Jeremy McClemont, made his final plea. He asked for time served in probation. He argued Andrews was a young woman with no criminal history, a victim of abuse, someone who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said she had already spent months in jail and that sending her away for years would serve no purpose. The prosecutor wasn't having it. Michelle Quintero stood up and reminded the court that Andrews had deleted evidence, lied to detectives, and only showed remorse after she got caught. This was not a mistake, Quintero said. This was a choice, a series of choices, and each one led to a man's murder. Judge Fernandez took a breath. Then she delivered the sentence. 15 years. Florida State Prison. No probation. No time served credit beyond what was already calculated. Andrews' face went blank. The smirk that had carried her through interviews, through testimony, through months of pretrial hearings was gone. But here's what you need to understand. That 15 years is not the end of this story. Because before she even left the courtroom, her lawyer announced they were filing yet another appeal. Alicia Andrews is not done fighting. And neither am I. If you want to see the final verdict on whether she'll ever get out early, you need to stay subscribed. Tap that button right now if you haven't already. The final part of this story is coming. And here's why that appeal probably won't work. Every legal expert who followed this case said the same thing. Judge Fernandez upheld every ruling from the original trial. She made it clear on the record that she agreed with how the evidence was handled. Andrews' lawyers can file as many motions as they want, but manslaughter convictions in Florida rarely get overturned on appeal. She's going to serve that 15 years. Maybe a little less with good behavior. But she is not walking out tomorrow. So where does that leave us? Julio Foolio's killers are all behind bars. Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davion Murphy got life without parole. They will never see daylight as free men. Alicia Andrews got 15 years. She'll be 38 when she gets out. Still young enough to start over. But Leo, that's the name of Foolio's son. He was just a little boy when his father was murdered. He'll be a teenager when Andrews is released. He'll be a man by the time she's lived half her sentence. And no appeal, no judge, no sentence will ever give him back the birthday parties, the football games, the late-night calls with Dad. Sandrikas Mays said it best outside the courthouse. My son doesn't get a second chance. Why should she? That question doesn't have an answer. Not one that satisfies a grieving mother. This is the part where I stop being a storyteller and start being real with you. Crimex is not growing the way it should. Our last video got over 100 views in a week. Do you know how many people subscribed? 3. 3 people. That breaks my heart because I pour everything into these scripts. I research every fact. I watch every trial clip. I sit through hours of court testimony so you don't have to. All I ask is one thing. Hit subscribe. Right now. Before you even finish this sentence. Tap the button turn on the bell, and watch one more video on this channel. That tells YouTube that true crime belongs here. And while you're down there, drop a comment. 15 years for a lookout who helped hunt down a father. Too light? Too harsh? Or exactly right? I read every single comment. This is Crime X. I'll see you in the next case. Subscribe. Stay curious. And don't let the truth go untold.